The 2025-26 NFL Playoffs. The opening game of the postseason features a rematch between the Panthers and the Rams. Even though the Panthers beat the Rams earlier in the season, it would be a pretty massive upset if they did it again. They have a losing record, haven't been impressive lately, and are 10-point dogs, despite being at home. The Rams possess the #1 offense in the NFL, and they get back Davante Adams for the playoffs. It may be a grindy first half, but the Rams will pull away with this one. Moving on to game number 2, this one's going to be wild. These two rivals split in their 2 games during the regular season, and the Bears needed an onside kick to defeat the Packers last time. The atmosphere here is going to be absolutely electric, and we should fully prepare for a total slugfest where some weird things happen. The Packers have been struggling as of recently, but with Love back in the lineup, and despite their injuries, I'm guessing the Packers somehow come out on top. For the first Sunday wildcard matchup, the Jags host the Bills. This is a game in which the Bills are favored, and rightfully so. They have the playoff experience and the better quarterback. However, Jacksonville has been red hot recently, crushing teams. I think this is a good matchup for Jacksonville. They got a solid top 5 rush defense that's ranked #1 in rush yards allowed, which is what Buffalo does well. On the flip side, I believe the Bills defense is going to have a hard time slowing the Jags down. I could see Josh Allen having to play from behind and make some heroic plays, but ultimately come up short in the end. Give me the Jags. Up next, the Eagles host the 49ers. San Francisco desperately needed to win that game against the Seahawks, but they were physically manhandled. They are just too injured, too beat up at this point, and Philly was able to rest key starters ahead of this matchup. The Eagles are a powerhouse defensively and enter this game fresh. With how bad the Niners defense currently is, the Eagles offense will do well, while their defense will keep Brock Purdy in check. Give me the Eagles here. Following that game, the Patriots host the Chargers. And this one's interesting. We saw Drake May and the Patriots shock everybody during the regular season. But at the same time, it's hard to know just how good these guys are considering they only have 2 wins against playoff teams, which includes Carolina. Not saying they suck, we just don't know. Even with that said, I think the Chargers are just too injured. Herbert is dealing with that hand injury, and their offensive line is in shambles. They're going to struggle to protect Herbert, and this defense won't be able to slow down Drake May. Give me the Patriots. And for the final wildcard matchup, the Steelers are coming off that incredible emotional win versus the Ravens. Also, they get DK Metcalf back, which will help their offensive attack. But they're about to run into a brick wall. Houston's defense is nasty, and realistically, Houston's offense will have to be atrocious for Pittsburgh to win this game, because I just don't see the Steelers' offense putting up many points. Houston comes out on top, which may be Rodgers' final career game. Moving on to the divisional round, let's start with the NFC, with a potential battle between the Rams and the Eagles. If we got this matchup, it would be pretty sick. It's the rematch of the snow game from last playoffs. And as I said in my last video, this rematch would feature a better Rams team and a worse Eagles team. I think we've just seen the Eagles offense get too weird this season and inconsistent to be reliable. The tush push has seen a noticeable decrease in effectiveness, and you just don't know what you're going to get from this offense game to game. Now, I do admit it did get a bit weird for the Rams as well during the end of the season, but at this moment, I have more faith in them. With that #1 offense at full power, I trust that they'll be able to put together more drives consistently than the Eagles, and I think in a close fourth quarter, they'll find a way to win. The other potential NFC divisional game would see the Packers travel to play the Seahawks. If we see this matchup, I think the Packers will struggle big time. The Seahawks are the most complete team in the league with the highest point differential of any team. Considering the key pieces the Packers are missing, they will really feel it if they make it to this point. They'll be coming off an emotional win over the Bears, and they're going to get punched in the mouth by Seattle. The Seahawks win, and I could see it getting ugly. Moving on over to the AFC, we see a rematch of the AFC Championship game from 8 years ago. Both of these teams weren't expected to be at this point, but here we are. They didn't meet during the regular season, so I'm having a hard time on what to expect. You'd think New England had a slight advantage being at home, but the Jags have been so amazing on the road this season, so it's tough to say how big of an advantage this really is. I like Jacksonville here due to being more battle-tested against playoff teams during the regular season. This means the prince that was promised back in 2020 makes his first AFC Championship game. And for the final divisional matchup, the Texans travel to Mile High to face the #1 seed, The last time these two met, the Broncos came back in the fourth to win. That game was in Houston, and the Texans failed to score a touchdown. Now, with the game in Denver, this is going to be a brutally tough test for Houston. Like the Texans, the Broncos are absolutely loaded on defense, and they do have a better offense than the Texans. With the crowd behind them, I see this just being an ugly game. It'll be a low-scoring affair, with the Broncos coming out on top. Now we move on to championship weekend. In the NFC title, the Seahawks host the Rams. I would be incredibly excited for this rematch. These two gave us perhaps the game of the year in the regular season, and it took a whole lot of good fortune for the Seahawks to win that game. These two teams split in their 2 games during the regular season. But here's what I find interesting. In their first matchup, Darnold threw 4 interceptions, and yet they still nearly came back and won. Then Darnold didn't play all that well in their second matchup early on, and they came back and won that game. Honestly, with a more complete roster and home field advantage, the edge goes to Seattle. Sam Darnold has made mistakes, but he showed us at the end of that Rams game that he can come up clutch in big moments. But with this roster, he may not need to. Either way, this should be an absolute classic, and I'm taking Seattle. Over in the AFC title, we also have another rematch, the Jags and the Broncos. Man, what a crazy matchup this would be. In their regular season game, the Jags won by 2 touchdowns in Denver. It was quite a stunner considering the Broncos had lost by a combined 4 points in their other 2 losses. The difference maker was the turnovers, as the Broncos outgained the Jags by almost 100 yards. As the regular season came to its conclusion, Jacksonville was the more impressive team, and I think the fate of this game will be decided in a similar way to their first matchup. Jacksonville pulls off a few key turnovers, and that'll be the difference. So give me Jacksonville. Super Bowl 60. Wow, this would be a strange matchup to say the least. Sam Darnold versus Trevor Lawrence. Some of you are going to be rolling your eyes at this matchup, but I would be excited. These are 2 teams that nobody gave a shot in the beginning, with 2 quarterbacks that had been written off earlier in their careers. For the game itself, these teams did meet back in October, with the advantage going to the Seahawks. But in a Super Bowl, it's so much different than a regular season game, it's hard to compare. So, who can handle the brightest of lights? Well, strictly speaking in terms of quarterbacks, I've actually seen Trevor Lawrence play in big games like the national title his freshman year in college, and he played well. I've also seen Sam Darnold struggle in big games. He has been clutch recently, like I said, but it is still something that you worry about with him. However, I don't think it's going to matter because I see the Seahawks controlling this game with defense and running the ball, not asking Sam Darnold to do too much. Give me the Seahawks as your Super Bowl 60 champions.
As Darnold sets to throw and folding one down the middle, and Smith-Njigba has it. Touchdown Seahawks!